So let me ask you about another subject, because you know, we've been able to discuss this whole issue of economic policy quite thoroughly. Would you say that Obama is in favor of redistributing more wealth than Romney? Would that be a fair statement, or you think that that's not right?
I'm in favor of redistributing wealth. Ever since we've been under a progressive...
Which of the two candidates wants to redistribute more?
Well, they both do. They just want to distribute it to different people.
I see. So basically, on balance, it's about the same amount. Who does Romney want to redistribute it to?
To the wealthy. You know?
So he wants to tax the poor people and give more money to the wealthy?
Yeah, no, he won't say that, but that essentially is what he's talking about in terms of he wants to keep the Bush tax cuts, which would mean that instead of restoring the old tax structure, which would tax upper income brackets more, he would keep their taxes low. He also would get rid of the estate tax, which is a tax on the money that you leave to your heirs or you leave behind after you die. In general, this is the difference between, I'd say, there are two economic theories. There's the trickle-down economics and trickle-up economics, that if you subsidize what Republicans call the job creators, this is their name for the wealthy, for the investment class, the corporate ownership class, then they will create more jobs. The fact is, the job creators have had their taxes cut. They haven't created any jobs. You know, we can see that from the economy right now. That's the argument Democrats come back with, and so Democrats are just the opposite. They would like trickle up. They would like to subsidize the lower income folks because they go out and spend more because they have to turn over their money more. These are both theories, but they're the foundation of the big political divide that we have right now. How many Americans care about this? I'd say about 60% care enough about one side or the other that they will take to the streets and demonstrate or whatever. Then you've got the other 40% in the middle that just cares about what works. And so you've got the 60% that's arguing these things and the 40% that's listening, and they'll make up their minds. They're the more late deciders in politics.
Let me ask you a question. Isn't it true that about 47% of the American citizens don't pay any income tax?
More than that, actually.
Okay, but wait, so why is it that you think that the rich are taking money from these poor people if they're not even paying the income tax at all? They're paying zero.
Only the income tax, but they're still paying state taxes. They're still paying sales taxes and other income taxes.
So does the top 1 or 2% pay like 30% of the whole tax bill?
I'm glad, by the way, that those people aren't paying taxes, because that was the policy that began with Ronald Reagan. In fact, the earned income tax credit.
So neither Romney nor Obama want to take money from the rich and give it to the poor. They just want, maybe Romney wants to give less money to the poor. Would that be accurate?
Oh, I suppose you could say that. But I think it's important to know what the earned income tax credit is, though, because and it was created under a conservative president and implemented further under a liberal president, Bill Clinton. But it's mainly designed to say that lower income people should not be penalized for going to work. Because if you don't work at all, you get welfare, right? At least under the old model.
An incentive for them.
It was an incentive for them to work without having to be penalized for going to work. And lower income people, it's hard. They talk about grocery prices and all. I'm lucky that I don't have to worry about the price of everything, but low income people do. And I was raised in a low income family, so I know how that is. So I'm happy that a lot of people don't have to pay taxes, pay the income tax, if this helps to make it easier for them to work and support their family. The sad thing is, it's only in the last couple of years that I've seen the right, especially right-wing radio and TV, demagogue this issue. Say,
well, let me ask you this:
paying taxes, as if people are ripping folks off. They're distorting the debate that began under Ronald Reagan, and the same thing has happened with welfare reform.
So. The bottom line is, you think that the government should redistribute its citizens' wealth by forcefully taking money from some citizens through taxes in order to provide goods and services for others. You think that's what a government should do?
You make it sound so mean.
Why is it?
You do, yeah. You talk about taking money from this person, giving it to that person.
The government doesn't do that?
course they do, but they don't do it. I mean, they don't talk. People don't talk about it in those terms. When they do, they don't like it. But when you talk about it in terms of
does the government force people to pay taxes?
Let's rephrase it. Do I believe the government ought to make sure that senior citizens don't have to go out and eat cat food in order to live? Because when I was a youngster, that's what happened before the war on poverty in the 60s, before Medicare came along, before the earned income tax credit, before the food stamp program.
When their sons and daughters didn't want to take care of them, I guess.
Well, you know, that's modern America. That's the industrialized world, isn't it? You know, in the pre-industrialized world, families stayed in the same village all their life, most likely, and older generations took care of younger generations. The average American worker stays in one place about 5 years. We're a very mobile society, so yeah, you know, I'm not living where I grew up, and you know, neither is my wife, and now we have to help take care of her father who lives up in Chicago and her mother who lives in Mexico, you know, and it's hard. And it's hard for us, and we make a pretty good income. But you know, this is our modern society. So these are trade-offs that Americans have made ever since at least the progressive era, when the progressive income tax began, and then the New Deal under Roosevelt, when Social Security began, and then under Lyndon Johnson, Medicare, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, Americans in general believe in redistributing wealth. The big debate I'm waiting to see.
Let me ask you a question about redistribution of wealth.
Let me make one more point about this election, which is I'm glad that we're debating Medicare in this election, because that's what's happened now.
So that's an example, right?
Because, you know, I predict right now the Tea Party movement, the small government movement, over the last couple of years has scored a lot of points by making government look evil. Now they've, as we say down south, they don't stop preaching and gone to meddling, because the two most popular government programs are Medicare and Social Security by far. And even Tea Party people say, keep the government hands off my Medicare, right? You know, because they love these programs. So
let me ask you about
they vote against these programs in November. That's what I'm waiting to see.
Well, it will be very interesting. I agree. It's a fundamental issue, and it's being debated, and that's why I'm discussing it with you. So, do you think that the government should protect all peaceful citizens against people that want to use force to take their money?
Well, that's what government's for, isn't it?
Okay, so can you live well if other people can legally gang up on you and forcefully take your money?
Could I live well if they forcibly take my money? Well, if it is the government, which it's their job to protect us from people who want to take our money from us, but they're a duly democratically elected government, then we're taking money from ourselves, aren't we?
So let me ask you this. When the government is forcefully taking money from these taxpayers in order to give free goods and services for others, are they protecting the taxpayers when they do that?
Who elected that government?
A majority. But
right.
Are they protecting the taxpayers when they force them to give money to other people?
I guess you got to ask the taxpayers, don't you?
Well, no, I want to pick your brain, because you're the one who, you know, you've been studying these issues and you're quite eloquent.
That's where the answer comes from. The answer in a democratic system, that's where the answer comes from. Because if the government is being unfair in taking money from people, then people can vote them out.
So you think 51% of the population should have the right to extract as much money as they want from the other 49?
Have the right under a democratic system? Well, it says in the Constitution it lets them do it.
Well, in the original Constitution, they couldn't do that. There was not a direct tax, so there couldn't be redistribution of wealth. But things have changed. So,
and how did they change?
So now, now it's not a constitutional republic.
How did the Constitution change?
Because
the original Constitution,
right?
There's an amendment process.
Yes, there was an amendment, and now they passed the 16th Amendment, right? And they permitted a direct tax, but it was, in my view, it was never clear whether they could have a direct tax for any purpose. But that's been the interpretation, and that's the government that we live with now. That's why I wanted you to examine the issue of: is there a contradiction between saying that the government should protect peaceful citizens against people that want to use force to take their money on the one hand, and on the other say that the government has the right to not only not protect them, but represent the people that want to take their money and extract the money forcefully from them?
Well, that is what we have a debate process for.
I agree. I like your view. Isn't there a contradiction in those two roles?
Of course.